I'm John Stewart, and have you ever been eating a sweet potato pie or some sweet potato fries and thought, man, this is really good? Uh, well, somebody had to grow those sweet potatoes to make that. Sweet potato farm is different from other types of agriculture. It's a lot more labor intensive, and it's very interesting. You start off with bedding, which is when you take your seed potatoes, which can be leftover potatoes from the year before, or potatoes that you've set aside for seed. You bed these under this type of tarp down your rows. It's going to be about 3 feet wide, and there's slits cut in it to let air circulate and things like that. The goal of that is to get it as hot as possible. After a few weeks, you're going to cut holes in the top of those tarps, and your vines are going to sprout out of your tarps. You take those vines from there, you cut them into slips, which are 10 to 14 inch long pieces of the vine. You have them sitting in these little hoppers, these little red boxes on the back of a transplanter, which goes on the back of a tractor. Your crew is going to sit like so on the transplanter in front of the boxes. You can kind of see it there. They're going to take the slips out of the boxes, and they're going to put them, or the hoppers as they call them, and they're going to put them on a finger, which is a little piece on a wheel, this wheel here, that spins around, and it pushes those slips into the ground, and that's how you plant sweet potatoes, and you could do that throughout the field. You've planted a field. Those slips have to be, like I said, 10 to 14 inches long. They've got to have nodes on them. Nodes are they look like little lumps on the end of a slip. I couldn't find a picture of them, but that's where your roots come from. That's where your other leaves come from if they're above the ground. As soon as you get them in the get the plants in the ground, you're going to want to start irrigating. Most farmers are going to use a reel gun type of irrigation. This is a big spool of pipe. It rolls out into the field. Down the road here, you can see the pipe there, and it goes onto a little gun, a reel gun, that sprays water across your field and all over your plants. Other farmers use sprinklers, but that's really rare. A little less rare is a center pivot system right here. That's rare because it's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that break. It's very expensive. On smaller scale things, mainly experimental agriculture, you're going to use things like drip tape, which it's a little plastic pipe hooked up to a big tank. It goes across your field like this. And there's a little nozzle that goes down each row, like so here. And there's a nodule, a little hole for water to come out with each plant. It's very effective but very expensive, and that's why it's only used on such small scales. As soon as you get it watered in, you're going to want to apply your pesticides. Dual is pretty commonly used. It's an herbicide for plants. Lorsban is a pesticide it's an insecticide for insects to control both of those. You can also use Roundup and many other chemicals on sweet potatoes. Then you're ready for harvest. After about 90 days, your crop is ready for harvest. You run through the field with a deviner at first. There's a rotating blade underneath this blue part that rips these vines out of the ground and shreds them, leaving the rows clean, as you can see here. Then you run through the clean rows allow your digger to dig freely and cleanly through the field. There's a big blade underneath the ground here that extends off of this chain here, this big metal chute with a chain in the middle of it that digs the potatoes. It pushes them up onto the chain. The chain rattles and shakes. It shakes the dirt loose off the potatoes, and your crew here sits there and divides up the potatoes. There's three different types of three different grades rather of potato. There's your jumbos, your number ones, and your canners. Your number ones are going to be the ones in the store that you cook with and eat. Jumbos are going to be too big. They can be as big as a pumpkin if they sit there and get right, or they can be as small as a grape. That's the small ones are your canners. Your canners are going to be the ones that they go to a factory and they get shredded and mashed and put into cans. That's where they get the name. Jumbos are kind of similar, but your number ones, they're graded. The jumbos and the canners are going to each go into a crate, probably on the front here, and the rest of them are going to go into another crate just like this, and then from there they're unloaded when they're full, and they're sold to other growers for seed, to grocery stores, and you name it. Anyway, that is all It's very interesting. A lot goes into sweet potatoes. Thank you for listening.